And ladies and gentlemen, he's one of the all-time greats, my buddy, Mr. John Wayne.
You're listening to the John Wayne Gritcast with me, Ethan Wayne.
The hell I was.
We're talking all about the life and legacy of my father.
John Wayne.
Mr. John Wayne.
John Wayne is the United States of America.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.
And what a picture that is, 1972. Glad you're with us, and what a show, a very fast 2 hours for you as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the John Wayne classic, The Cowboys. And we have 9 cast members in our studio. It's going to be a whole lot of fun to talk to them. They're lively, I'll tell you that right now. They've enjoyed seeing each other, getting caught up. Some of them haven't seen each other in 50 years, and so they've had a lot to talk about, so get ready for a very energetic 2 hours. Ethan, I'll start with you. A story you told me this morning, the director originally wanted George C. Scott and not John Wayne. So well, I don't even know how that would even remotely be possible.
And I didn't know that until a couple months ago when we interviewed the director on the John Wayne Gritcast podcast. And I was shocked when he said it. And he said, look, I was a little Jewish guy from New York. I was basically almost a communist. And the thought of working with John Wayne was terrifying. And they thought it wouldn't work and they wouldn't be able to work together. And he said he wanted George C. Scott. And I guess the studio wanted John Wayne. And he said once they met and they had a conversation, he said, Duke, how are we going to work together? We're so different. And he said, John Wayne said, look, you're the director and I'm the actor. You're going to tell me how to act and we're going to make a great movie. The rest is history. When you look at the body of your dad's work, how would you stack the Cowboys up? It's not like he did this movie with Jimmy Stewart and a bunch of A-list actors. He got a bunch of kids that pulled it off. They were good Cowboys. They were good actors. How does this stack up, you think, in your dad's list of movies? I've watched a lot of John Wayne films, and I love watching my father's films. The Cowboys is, if not my favorite, certainly one of the ones that really connects me to my father. And when you watch him with co-stars, you see the grandeur of that man, but when you watch him work with these guys when they were kids, I always asked, who did the casting? Like, who put this ensemble together? Because you guys owned the screen when you were on it. I mean, amazing performances from young people. And we've had people come from all over the country to be here to see these guys together again and to let them know how important that film was and their performances were to them. It helped shape people's lives. We're going to introduce them in a couple of different ways. And Robert, we'll start with you, and you can do the introduction and get the party started.
My name is Robert Carradine, and I play Slim Honeycutt. Yeah. There you are.
Yeah, and my name is A. Martinez, and I played Cimarron.
My name is Mike Pyatt, and I played Homer Weems.
And my name is Nicholas Bovey, and I played Dan Four Eyes.
My name is Al Barker Jr., and I played Singin' Fats.
My name is Sam O'Brien, and I played Jimmy Phillips.
My name is Steve Benedict, and I played Steve.
My name is Stephen Hudis, and I played Charlie.
My name is Sean Kelly, and I played Stuttering Bob.
Start us off by just a show of hands. How many of you were cowboys before you were an actor? And then I guess the rest of you were actors before you became cowboys. Yeah. A, we'll start with you because I was talking to you this morning, kind of like John Wayne. You weren't the first choice to play Cimarron, so you had a little bit of a journey to get that part.
Yeah, I wasn't even the second choice, actually. It was that bad. But yeah, I was the third choice. The first kid couldn't cut it on the horse, so the story goes. And the second kid, after I thought, well, I'll now surely they'll call me now because that kid couldn't make it, and then they cast somebody else instead, and that poor kid got thrown in jail. Oh. So they came to me as number 3. So I felt, it was really a lucky break. And to your question earlier, the casting director was Lynn Stallmaster, and I got to say, one of the things we've been talking about a lot lately is what a light touch Rydell had with us. He didn't say much to us, he cast us. We were perfectly cast, except for me, who was obviously, the third best. But most of us were perfectly cast, so he could leave us alone, And it wasn't until you got into trouble that he would step up and say something to you that would make the lights go on. But yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Early on in that movie, you guys didn't really get along. I was kind of nervous about sitting you guys together. I mean, I'm assuming 50 years later, I got to think you guys are better friends.
Yeah, we are definitely better friends. It's not like we weren't good friends when we were out there. A was actually my guardian because my brother David, with whom I was living at the time, didn't want to spend 14 weeks on location. So we worked it so that A could be my guardian. And I learned about Coors Light. No, they didn't have Coors Light back then.
Bobby was always trying to get me loaded on beer, and then I'd get blamed for it later. That's the way I remember it, anyway.
Yeah, no, we had a really good time, and it's funny that scene we were just looking at. A gets on the horse and breaks the horse, backs it up, makes it go forward, spins it, the whole deal, and he goes up to the kid. He goes, "Now maybe you can ride him, boy," and we get in a fight, and Duke breaks us up. And I don't know if you know this, Ethan, but I tried to tell your dad how to do his line. Because he breaks us up and he says, "You," and he's looking right at me and he says, "Get back up on that fence where you belong now." And he turns to A and I interrupt him. I go, "Excuse me, Mr. Wayne, I'm the head kid and I don't think you should tell me to get on the fence where I belong. I think you should just tell me to get on the fence." And he looked at me like I had two heads. And then he really let me have it. I mean, it wasn't pretty. And what was I thinking? It's my first movie. I've been on location exactly 1 week, and I'm trying to tell John Wayne how to say his line. Who does that?
That was the end of your directorial debut right there.
Yeah, that's my directorial debut. But, here's the key to the whole deal. When you watch the movie, he doesn't tell me to get on the fence where I belong. He says, "Get back on the fence."
Hey, Sean, for you, watching the movie last night, you guys were here. We showed it on the lawn in front of the Exchange building. What was it like to be a spectator and watch it and experience it all over again?
I hadn't seen it in about 10 years. We did a reunion 40th in Belle Fourche, and there's so many people that were coming up and signing autographs and stuff like that, and I haven't done that in a long time. And it was just so intimate and so real. And there's a whole part of Americana, being raised in Los Angeles and thinking there was nothing in between. And all of a sudden this film comes into my life, and it was just amazing just to once again be a part of an audience and watch it and feel everyone. And there's emotional moments, it was just amazing. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Pass down to Steve in the middle. I was talking to you this morning, and it's the Cowboy Channel, and I'm not sure you want to tell the story on the Cowboy Channel, but learning to ride, they made you guys ride like riding boot camp, and you even sought out just a little extra padding.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, tell that story.
So, actor, and there was a bunch of other people that were there learning how to ride every day, Monday through Friday. We always were in 15 or above, it's 14 maybe. We all had to learn how to ride after school, Monday through Friday, Saturday 8 hours, Sunday 5 hours, every single day. And they told you, if you miss a day, you're out. So you couldn't call in sick. It was you learn how to ride and you make your appointment. Otherwise, you're not going to go. So after like a week, you're already, I can't do this every day. But anyway, I ended up wearing a diaper, maybe 2. So. Because it did help, because my butt was where your 2 cheeks come together. It was raw on both sides. It was bleeding. So, But anyway, I rode the whole time, and they actually gave me the part. That's why I don't have a fancy name like Homer or Four Eyes. They just gave me. I got a wild card part. They made a part for me, and they called me Steve because I hung in there the whole time, and I was like, they gave me a freebie.
Yeah, and you liked it so much, you went from trying to buy motorcycles
I took
to
all
buying
my
horses.
money. You know, we made a little bit of money on that show, and I took all my money, bought a team roping horse and a calf roping horse and a pickup truck, and I lived with him. We were best friends for 2 summers, and because his dad had a roping arena, and Clay O'Brien, who's his brother, had a roping arena, and I just roped and roped and roped, and I had the best time from 15 to 19 years old.
Yeah. Ethan, you've said that it gives you an idea what it was like to be John Wayne's son.
Well, when I watch the movie and I watch him interact with them, now I'm looking back, I'm 60, and I look back and I watch him interact with them, and I see his eyes, and I see the emotion, and I see the pride when they make their accomplishments, and I see the speech at the end as he's dying, and he tells each one of them how proud he is. It does. It's the closest thing to my and my father's relationship that I can experience through his films. And the Cowboy gives me that every time I watch it, and they give me that every time I watch it. Thank you.
And I've heard a couple of them say that they wish John Wayne would have been their dad. And who doesn't, by the way?
Yeah, he was a good dad. I'm sure you all had good dads, but I liked mine.
Yeah. Who did their own stunts?
None of us did our own stunts.
No.
But on that being said, 90% of the writing that you see us doing in the film is us doing it. Our stunt doubles used to complain because they had nothing to do. And we pretty much did everything.
Everybody looked great on a horse in that movie.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, including the very first scene that there's a shot of my dad running up the hill. And I'm thinking, he's 66. It's 5:30 in the morning, and he's charging up a hill. And how many head of cattle and horses did you guys have? I mean, it was enormous.
Well, yeah.
1,500?
There's a story about that. We used to go riding when we didn't have anything to shoot and when we didn't have to be in school. And one day we decided to count the herd. So we went out there and we're counting the herd, and I went to Tim Zinneman, our first assistant director. I said, "Hey, Tim, we counted the herd." He goes, "Oh, yeah, how many are there?" And I said, I don't remember what I said, but it was something like 789. He goes, "Wow, that's funny because we're paying for 1,200.
And Mark Riddell, not a cowboy, never directed a Western film. And man, it's a great movie. Hats off to Mark wherever he is.
Yes.
Right? I hope he gets to watch this program.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the director and his first endeavor into that Western genre and what a great job he did. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Back in our Justin Booth studios. Glad you're with us as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the great John Wayne movie, The Cowboys. And of course, he's an American icon, great actor, a cowboy, but as we found out in the movie The Cowboys, also a pretty solid speech therapist. Sean, your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah. Yeah. A quick anecdote. So the scene, we did it in one take, the master, and we have then the side shots. And so as the Duke, as we broke for a moment to reset the cameras, the Duke came up to me and said, "Come here." I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Fine, very fine." I said, "Well, thank you." And he goes, "Yeah, now you're not going to call me that on or off set, correct?" And I went, "No, sir." Woof. 6'4", 3 feet wide. Yikes. That's all I can say. And my partner, Catherine, she said, "So did you do any preparation for that scene?" I said, "Well, I'd actually had an argument with my dad, an Irishman, in Los Angeles on the phone. And so I was pretty intense about that. So it still plays."
Yeah, I can see the emotion in your eyes there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So pass that microphone rubber down to Mike. You know, we talked about what the non-Cowboys had to do to get ready to play in terms of riding horses nonstop. What about the Cowboys as they tried to make that transition to an actor?
We didn't know what to expect. And I think it made it better because we were more relaxed and we were surrounded by a bunch of friends. I mean, Clay lived right down the street. Sam lived right down the street from me. We knew each other very well before the movie, and all the stunt doubles came from a little junior rodeo association almost, and that's where they were picked from, and had a great stunt coordinator help me with his
Buzz Henry.
Yeah. And he put them all together. They worked really good together, and I remember very specific that Mark had told me, he said, I don't want you reading the script. Don't read the script. You'll read the day planner or page, whatever they call it. And that's what you'll remember your lines from that night. And so I never read the whole script. And then when the movie came out, it's like, wow, so all that went together like that. Yeah. So.
Did you guys have to ride with everybody?
No, we would have put them to shame, so we stayed away.
But I mean, they had to go, you know, they had to go every day, 3 hours after school, every day during the week, and then 8 and 5 hours on the weekend.
That was a normal day for us.
Yeah.
That was just running them up one time. You know, we ran the steers up 3 or 4 times every day. So, no, we lived down the house or down the street from Clay, and we would ride our horses to Clay and Sam's house and rope, or they'd ride their horses down to our house and rope. So we were on horseback year round. In the summertime before the Cowboys, I mean, we rode horses together all over the Selmar in that time, and that time was nothing. It was a little bitty town. You could ride up and down the streets all the time. So we were on horses all the time. So, yeah, that was a normal. And
sorry, Jeff.
No, you're good. Al on the back row. Okay. We'll pass it all the way down there to you. But give me your perspective down that line.
My wife was going to put a gag on me, and I said, you better bring one for Mike, too. You know, I remember going to Red Burke's stables where everybody had to ride, and I remember he had some horses saddled up. All right, get on up, show me what you can do. Got on up a horse, loped around the arena one time. Get off my damn horse. You don't need to do this. Kind of like, it was just natural. It's something we did, but they tested everybody. We all had to go through it. And they wanted to see what everybody could do, and some of us could, and some of us had to be trained. And what was that brand of diapers, Mike?
Me? I want to wait. I got to make that clear, Jeff. I never wore the diaper. Okay.
And for the record,
I can't let that get out there.
And, no, he can't. For the record, Mike actually roped at the National Finals Rodeo and team roping too. So yeah, no diapers were allowed at the NFR in any way.
No, Oklahoma City, they did not allow diapers.
No, not at all.
And just for the record, Mike and I are always at each other's throat because we're best of friends and knowing each other all of our lives.
That's right.
Well, Mark Rydell, who's the director, give us a little perspective on him. You know, just first time that he kind of jumped into the Western side of it, and obviously it clicked with him because he did a great job.
Well, we're doing this podcast, and we're trying to capture stories from people who knew our father, before they pass and the stories are gone. So we were lucky enough to get Mark Rydell to come out and talk to us. Mark's in his early 90s. And he couldn't have been nicer and more gracious and more open. But he said, I'm out of New York. I'm from the Actors Studio. I'm very, very liberal. And I'd never made a Western, but I read this book, and it spoke to me. And I called my mother immediately, and I said, Mom, don't ask me why, but I need $10,000. I'm going to, trying to put this deal together. And his mother wired him the $10,000 or whatever they did in those days, and he bought that script. And he said, and then I went to the studio, and I walked into this guy's office, I slammed the script down and said, I'm going to give you 24 hours to read this, and if you don't make this with me, I'm going to take it to somebody else. And he said, I have no idea where I got the courage to go do that, because that was way above my pay grade at the time. But they took the deal, and they made the movie, and he had wanted George C. Scott, and you heard that story. Ended up with John Wayne, and they ended up getting along great. But, I guess it doesn't matter whether you've done a Western or not. He had good technical people, and he had some real cowboys, and they trained the guys who didn't have experience on horses, they trained them up. And when you watch the film, they're now experienced horsemen. And I think he focused on the story, and the story was important to him, and that's what he put on screen. And just the fact that it was in the Western genre, he probably left it up to the guys who really knew Western genre to make that happen. But the story, the connection between John Wayne and these kids and what they faced, I thought he did an excellent job.
We have a couple of clips from him. The first one here is him talking about actually working with the kids.
That's interesting because it's you got so much in the Cowboys from my father, and I watched it recently, and when I watch the Cowboys, it really reminds me of the dad that I had. The way he looks at the boys, the way he counsels them.
He fell in love with those boys. That was the basic undercurrent story, aside from all taking 1,500 cattle to market. He fell in love with kids.
Yeah.
And you were there.
He was proud of them, and he showed pride in, when they learned something or when they progressed. It was, to me, what I see is a man who knows how to be a leader. And he knows he's leading young people, so he's reserving a portion of, like a father has to reserve a portion of himself from his kids because he can't be their friend till they're older. He's got to be their father first.
Right,
maybe.
exactly.
And so I see that in that film, and then I see that.
It works too, doesn't it?
It's an amazing movie. It's
because,
one of my.
You know why? Because he fell in love with the kids.
All right.
And they went crazy for him. These were boys, aged from 9 to 14.
Uh-huh.
That's the oldest, was 14, 15 years old. And they all fell in love with him, and he was surprised at that, And by the time we were halfway through the picture, he would have killed for those kids.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he sure impressed me.
Nick, I have so many questions for you. A lot of it concerns Bruce Dern. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But what was it like working with that director?
Oh, Mark Rydell was great. And going to your point about him never having done a Western, I think his artisticness in this movie, his vision, he brought so much beauty to the Western. Just some of those shots with, when John Wayne goes to the corral and gets all the horses, and the horses run out of the corral, and the dust is there, and the sky and everything. I mean, everything. The movie was just visually so beautiful. We had a great, we were speaking about Lynn Stallmaster. We had Robert Surtees, who was the cinematographer, another giant. We had John Williams, who did the score. Famous John Williams. He wasn't John Williams then. So the ingredients of the movie. It was just amazing people, and I got to tell Mike, by the end of the movie, we could ride just as good as you guys. and I'll give but hey, and I will say this though. You could act just as good as us. Yeah, because it's true. The actors really became cowboys, and the Cowboys nailed it. Al Barker's Fats, Homer. Let out that yell when you see that lady.
I just want to let you know that's the last woman I ever ran from.
That and the diaper, we cleared those up right there. Exactly. 2 mysteries cleared up. Yeah.
But Mark Rydell was a great guy. Great guy.
Sam, you and Cleo you guys are quiet, but you got the cowboy skills. What was your experience like working with John Wayne and that director?
It's hard to describe it simply because to me, it was a childhood dream. I had seen him in McClintock, in Superior, where I grew up, before I met Clay and Gene, or before I went to live with them. And, I was 10 or 11, I'm going, man, I'd like to make a movie with him. Next thing I know, I'm in the middle of it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was ready to go roping. That's all they told me, let's go rope, and we went and roped. And Clay was about the same way. We were just out there having fun, getting the pennies we could. Guys.
Two Steves down, they're only like the modern era. I think 3 westerns where John Wayne didn't survive the movie: The Alamo, the Cowboys, and The Shootist. And unfortunately, you're on that list in terms of the Cowboys. You didn't quite make it to the end.
No, I didn't, thanks to old Four Eyes over here. You can get your own glasses next time. But no, that had its own notoriety, of course, to have died in the film. It kind of set me apart. And to have the Duke read my eulogy on camera, I mean, that's pretty special, right? To have that memory of... I got to tell you, when they lowered me into that hole, I freaked. I lost my you-know-what, that first shovelful of dirt landed on my gut, and I was like, I'm out of here, I'm out of here. But yeah, it was something. I will never forget this experience. These guys we're all just so blessed and so lucky to have been a part of it. And as has been said many times, this is a special film, not just in terms of for us, but the way that people react to it, and they come to us and say what it meant to them. And we had no idea at the time that it would have this resonance and this long life. And we're all here together again, and it's just been fantastic.
Your thoughts on doing a movie with John Wayne?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was an icon, of course, an immeasurable star. And we were all very nervous, but the day that Nick and I walked up, got the nerve to walk up and introduce ourselves first day, he literally he had those gloves on, and he said, "Oh, hello, I'm John Wayne," as if he was just some guy on the street. He was just so gracious and just a delight to work with. It was just an incredible time in all of our lives, but it stayed with us forever.
Yeah, and by that time of his career, I think everybody that worked with him was pretty much in awe of him, including, by the time it was all said and done, the director. We have another clip there of Mark Riddell.
And how was it working with him?
Well,
a little dicey at first?
When I started, the guy gave me a book, The Cowboys, and I read this story about a man who loses his ranch hands who are going to a gold strike, and and he's about to take 1,500 head of cattle plus 100 horses to market, to sell them. And someone says to him, go to the school, see if you can get the kids.
Slim Pickens.
Yes, Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens takes him out there. The scenes between him and Slim Pickens are some of my favorite. I mean, you made a fantastic film. For me, as this guy's kid, when I watch that movie, you give me back my father for a period of time.
That's great. I'm so glad, because I'm giving you a gift.
Yes, you are.
He blew my mind. I'm telling you, I had no idea that I was going to be working with John Wayne. My first thought was, who did I think of?
George C. Scott, I read.
George C. Scott. And they said, John Wayne. I said, John Wayne, who was conservative politically, and I was a borderline communist, for Christ's sake. And I said, how are we going to possibly get, when I went to see him, and where was the house?
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach. I went to see him in Newport Beach. I said, how are we going to work together? I'm a Jew. I'm a left wing. You're a right wing hero, and I'm a borderline communist. How are we going to work? He says, tell me how to act. He said to me.
What a great.
He said, well, that I know how to do.
One thing that I didn't pick up from my father as a young boy, but I've learned over time, especially having a conversation with you, is that he had his own beliefs, and they were strong beliefs, but he was always open to other people's beliefs because he wanted to learn from them. If you felt a certain way, Mark, he'd want to talk to you to understand why you felt that way, because maybe he would absorb some of that. And I can also remember him saying, I thought of myself as a liberal. Everybody calls me a conservative, but I'm a liberal. I just, I look at the subject, I read both sides, and I make up my own mind.
Hey, a question for you. Mike cleared up his run away from the soiled dove scene, and I read where that's one of your favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. And I want to just finish that subject. You know, I think it's important to recognize Rydell is revered among serious acting circles in Los Angeles. He came out of New York, but you know he's a legend at the Actors Studio in Los Angeles. I mean, he literally opened the sky to so many actors because of his brilliance, just as he did for us. I mean, the dude is a walking genius as an artist. So, props to Mark. And George C. Scott in his mind. Well, there's Sarah Colleen Dewhurst was married to George C. Scott twice, and so that was part of the package that he had in his mind. And of course, with Nightlinger, he was seeing Roscoe Lee Browne. All three of them being New York theater legends beyond their film credits and stuff. And I still think it's one of the great experiences of my life that I got to do that scene with her. And when I look at it, I still feel like I'm being educated watching her work. And certainly, watching Bruce work and watching Roscoe work, you learn what it's like to have achieved a level of mastery where you're not afraid of silence anymore. You're willing to let the moment turn into silence, and you understand that it will live, and you can get people to stop and feel it more deeply because you leave them a space to do that. Just like genius level actors, and she was all of that. I just my performance was so. It was you can arguably it was kind of one note for quite a while. I was just being intense and intense and intense. And then, there she is, and you watch this character kind of go into closer to his heart. And, I just, it was a tribute. It was a privilege to get to do it. And then, of course, it had to turn into, Homer's the wheels came off of Homer, and it turned into something altogether different. But, for a while, it was really blissful for me.
Do you look and look back on it now and go, just watching Mike in that scene? And
well, I kind of do. No, I got to say, you paid it off brilliantly. So yeah, it was a privilege to do that scene. I'll just say that. Yeah.
Now, I just want to add something here, and since we're all here except for Clay, I remember in the original script that we had our way with those girls. Am I right about that?
Well, the more you say that, the more I think, the more I'm trying to remember, and I'm struggling, Bobby. I really am struggling. But you may be right. You could be right. We might have shot it both ways.
I can't remember if we shot it both ways. I just remember that they changed it. Okay, good.
I got something to add to that. So we start to shoot that scene. Two things I want to talk about. And I didn't know it until I got here this week, after 50 years. There was a guy on set that cooked the best egg sandwich in the whole world. And so even Ethan, I was telling Ethan about the story. He goes, "Oh, I eat those every morning too." And I'm putting them away, man. Because they're good. And I had money because I'm getting $60 a week to eat on, I think. It's like, wow.
Best thing about it.
Yeah. And so I'm eating those sandwiches, and we go to shoot that scene, and I move that branch out of the way, and God bless, Mark Rydell. And just so classic. And we all feared him because he threatened us all that he would, fire us and run us off, and somebody else would take our part. And I moved the branch away, and he goes, "Oh, my God, son. How much weight have you gained?" He said, "I am going to have to change you out with Fats, and Fats is going to be Homer." I never ate another egg sandwich. So, and the other thing that was kind of cute about good about that scene is when they wouldn't let these guys down there. Just A and I were the only ones going down there. So we had a little thing going that, you know, we were going to say something happened down there. Nobody was going to know but me and him.
When we come back, we'll have more of those stories. We'll talk about a couple of the cast members that couldn't be here tonight, too, so don't go away. Welcome back to our Justin Booth Studios as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the great John Wayne movie, The Cowboys. We have 9 members from the cast here. The kids side of it, that's very well represented. Nick, I want to get to you now because Bruce Dern couldn't be here. And watching the movie even now, I mean, that is he's a great villain. And I know for you, talk about the rehearsals, the differences from him when the camera wasn't rolling to when it was rolling.
So, Bruce Dern, man, this is a tough one. He was an intense individual, great guy. So I don't want to spoil it, but off camera, he was a very special person. We had a very nice relationship. We were both sportos, talking sports. He took me to Laker games. So we had a very, very close relationship. Now, in all the scenes that we did together, and they were kind of rough scenes, we rehearsed. And, you know, he put the knife on my neck, and this is what we're going to do, and, you know, all the different things that he did to me. But when Mark Rydell said action, Bruce just took it up to a level that was so scary that, yeah, I was acting a little bit, but he threw me into this fright and threw me into such fear that, you know, he made it like so real, and it was real. I mean, when he has that knife on my throat, he literally sticks the edge in my neck, and I'm thinking the guy's psycho. He's gonna cut my neck.
You found that those are the original glasses, even though he tore one pair up, I think, during the movie.
Unbelievable. These are the original glasses. We had like yeah. Took me a while to find it. I knew I had them. We had like 3-4 pairs on the set. 'Cause, you know, once I dropped them and they got trampled, and Bruce Dern crumples one of them. But you know, hey, Charlie, can you get that for me?
You're on your own, pal. Been there, done that.
Good job. No, but I thought these looked pretty good. And bring back the glasses.
Anybody else with Bruce Dern encounters down that line on the movie?
Well, I had worked with Bruce previously, so we had known each other. But yeah, I think he purposefully kind of was aloof to the rest of us, and focusing on his nemesis, not his nemesis, but you know what I mean, his victim. But we worked together. But he was an amazing athlete. You know, he ran everywhere. We would be riding the bus to the set, 20 miles, and here's Bruce just trucking down the road, just running everywhere. So he was a different animal for sure. But he was really something.
One more thing to chime in on Bruce Dern. There was a scene, and it's a little bit of misinformation that's out there in the universe. The scene where he dunks me in the water. I mean, he takes me into the river. I knew that was going to happen. They put a bodysuit on me. I had a real thick, like, wetsuit, flesh-colored wetsuit. Okay, he's going to take me and dunk me in the water and all that. I thought he was going to drown me. I mean, that guy just literally just grabbed me and just started pushing me in the water and everything. And if you notice, my glasses fell off when he was doing that, and I got lucky and just caught them, because we only did one shot. Mark Rydell had like 4 cameras all around, and that wasn't something, you know, you cut and do it again, because I got to change my outfit. You know, it was pretty intense. So it was a one-take situation.
Real tears, alligator tears when you buried Steve.
Oh, that was real tears. Yep. That was real tears. You know, I'm a crybaby in life. Okay, I'll be honest. I'm a little sensitive, you know, kind of person. But Mark Rydell put me to the side and he said, Nicholas, this scene, I really want some tears. And I'm 12 years old. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, and I just thought back into something really sad in my life, and looked at the grave, and just it came. The tears came. That's one of my proudest scenes in the movie, because when John Wayne puts his hand on me, and I look up at John Wayne, I know I got him a little bit, choked up, and you can see it because I don't know if he was expecting tears or not, but it was a good scene, that one.
I think I was pretty good in that scene too.
Where's the dirt?
That's one of my best performances right there.
I'll just throw it out to the group. When you get into Roscoe Lee Browne, good relationship with him, or are you guys as scared of him? Were you as scared of him in real life as you were in the movie?
I'll say great relationship, super educated, classy man.
Artist, man, wow, could that guy act? I mean, that bunkhouse scene.
That's a classic.
That was the first time we had saw him, because I don't know if you know, but Mark shot the movie the way it plays in sequence, and that was one of the first scenes, and wow, we were all stunned, very stunned. He's awesome.
I think it was a brilliant choice on Mark's part to do that, because that's not the way movies are normally made, and it's usually a little more expensive because you have to move. But I think it was to give everybody a chance to get to build the camaraderie with each other, but also with John Wayne in an organic way, so that the characters as well as the actors. But I want to say one thing about Roscoe. He and I managed to keep in touch. I was into the theater game a little bit, and he came to see me do some plays once, and I was very, very moved and touched that he would do that. But he was I remember often at lunch, Bobby would play some guitar, just some meandering, beautiful stuff, and Roscoe would read Shakespearean sonnets or something. It was just so peaceful, and like he said, so erudite and educated, and that warm, rich voice of his just was magic.
He was also a world-class athlete when he was a young man. He was a runner, and he was just an amazing guy. And I know that he and the Duke played chess in the mornings a lot. Just an extraordinary guy. It was a great relationship.
And he said he'd had similar misgivings about working with Duke because of the political thing, but he said none of that ever got in the way or was evident in any way.
Yeah, wonderful cast. And I was thinking when he was kind of collecting you guys as kids, Slim Pickens is there. I'm wondering why Slim didn't saddle up and ride with you guys too. But
Well, he had to run his bar. I mean, who's going to pour the drinks,
What's one of your favorite stories from the making of the movie?
Well, I had that run-in with him with the bucking horse, where I tried to tell him how he should do his line. There's another fight with A. Martinez and myself, and A and I are going at it, and he breaks us up, and he makes us turn in our guns. And we're supposed to throw our guns in the back of this buggy. And I'm thinking, right, I'm a young man. I finally have my Colt revolver. I'm going to be reluctant to give it up. So I kind of take my time getting in there. Well, the tag of the scene is that Clay O'Brien has this gun that's as big as he is. And it's a little tag with him and Clay O'Brien, with the Duke and Clay O'Brien. And I go walking in there, and I got in there a little bit late. And Duke, he just started the tag of the scene once he saw the parade of kids stop. Well, right in the middle of the tag that he's shooting with Clay, I just walk right between the two of them. I bump him in the stomach with my elbow, and I throw the pistol on the pile, and I go to leave. And he stops me, and he goes, "Carradine, you're a bigger ham than your old man ever was."
Ouch.
And that's how it started, okay? So the kids are in school. I didn't have to go to school for the entire day because whatever my schedule was, I only had to go for the morning. So we were told to always practice our roping. If we're not doing anything, just practice your roping, practice your roping. So I'm out there practicing my roping out in front of the bunkhouse, not the bunkhouse, but the ranch house. And I hear this horse coming at a dead gallop. And I mean, it's coming. And I turn around and I look, And it's Ethan's dad on this horse, Dollar, and he's got Dollar's head pulled all the way around the wrong way. And the horse is, you know, it's just looking at this space between the ranch house and where this buggy was. And it's only about 6.5 feet high, so it's going to take Duke off right about there. And I just did what I saw the wranglers do, because they were all chasing him, trying to catch him. I just whistled and waved my arms, and the horse turned up and stopped. And they helped him off the horse and, you know, took him back to his Winnebago and cleaned him up, whatever had happened. And I didn't think anything about it. And about an hour later, I'm practicing the roping, and I feel this presence. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I look, and sure enough, it's Mr. Wayne. And I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. And he says, the roping looks good. I go, oh, thank you, Mr. Wayne. We're having a nice day, aren't we? I said, yes, Mr. Wayne, it's a very nice day. He goes, well, take it easy. I go, okay. That was his way of saying thanks.
Yeah.
During the Crazy Alice scene, which was for me one of the more frightening aspects, they had a bunch of different horses. Horses in the movies are trained to rear, to fall, to buck once, whatever the scene calls for. And they wanted every actor to take that first jump as a close-up, and that's the horse just bucked once, and that was it. Well, even though all the training and everything, I wasn't used to that, and I went just right into the dirt, face first. Scared me to death almost, and I started to cry, and there was John, and he just went like this, and I ran into his arms, and he just made me feel better. He was just that surrogate dad for everybody, but that moment was just so, I needed that, and it's this barrel-chested man, and he just said, it's all right, man. And then I stepped in some cow poop later, and he goes, all right, now you're a cowboy.
That's a perfect lead into our final clip from the movie, as John Wayne is pretty much, his dying words gives you guys the kind of the thumbs up and lets you know that he's proud of you. Steve, your thoughts on, grab that microphone, on that scene and just being a part of that.
Well, it was nice. It was nice, really nice for me, because my dad died, my real dad died the year before, May 9th, Mother's Day, 1970. And we shot that almost a year later, 1971. So when he was doing that, it was like my dad talking back to me. It felt so good. I'll never forget that.
Wow. Powerful scene. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I tell a Stuttering Bob story?
Yes.
We just built the exhibit, and a couple comes in, and the guy goes, hey, can I just tell you something? I go, yeah. He goes, we have this little girl, and she was a baby, and me and my wife, we watch John Wayne films all the time, and our little girl hadn't really started talking very much yet, and they're in the kitchen doing something, and life's busy, and they start to hear the kid in the other room cussing up a storm. And they go back, and they're kind of listening, and the little girl's cussing, and they look around the corner, and she's got her doll, and she's saying, you son of a bitch, you dirty no good son of a bitch. And then they realized that the kid had picked it up after watching the movie for so long. So I thought that was really funny.
That's really funny.
I think it had a PG rating too, didn't it?
Yeah.
PG. Yeah.
Those ratings were all new right about that time too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a brand new thing. What was it like when you guys were? Sometimes when we'd go on location, I'd stay with my dad in a hotel, but sometimes he'd rent a little house. And on the Cowboys, for the time I was there, he'd had a house. And there was a guy named Wayne Warga who was a writer, and they were working on a biography. So we were living out there, but I heard you guys all talking about living at the Holiday Inn together, and you being his guardian, and I just wonder if there were any shenanigans at the poor Holiday Inn. I can't imagine what that place was like. And
it's out of business now.
But I mean, that must have been pretty fun. Well, you had your moms too, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, before you start, Mike, because
you know I'm not going to finish.
I know, yeah. But I remember one time after work, we went by Buzz Henry's room, the stunt coordinator, there was a pile of cash on the bed, you know, like the size of a loaf of bread. And I mean, there's 10s and 20s and stuff. And him and the stunt guys were all in there playing poker.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So this is great because Al didn't know about this till about 20 years after the movie's over with. But we went, me and I think it was Steve Yost. Me and Steve Yost went in his room and we took the heater vent off and put Swiss cheese up there and put the heater vent back on. And then he would come out. God, you guys' room stinks? My room stinks. No, our room's good. I would change rooms if I was you. He would change rooms. We would get him back out, and we would go up there and put Swiss cheese in the next room. Did you ever? Where's he at? There he is.
It wasn't Swiss cheese. It was Limburger cheese.
Limburger cheese, good.
And when the heater turned on, it was as bad as it can be.
So, I just want to say for the record, I wasn't involved in any of those shenanigans. As a matter of fact, every night in my room after I studied my lines, I would read the Torah from right to left in Hebrew. I mean, there was a lot of crazy stuff going on, but this guy was the instigator right here.
And that's why Steve and I had to split up, and I had a new roommate, RD, who's up there, because I could not understand a word he was saying when he would be reading those books. Something like that.
Bobby would play Fire and Rain on his guitar and sing. And Bobby's a really good musician. And it was really, really fun to, like, you know, have that instant bond. You know, it's like, you know, I can't play guitar like that, but I you know, love to sing those songs. And so we immediately bonded, actually just singing the songs of the day. That was like a big part of the kind of unexpected pleasure of getting to do it, you know, and being his guardian and all. I had to, you know, sing with him.
Well, they had a racetrack that got put in pretty recently before we got there, and they had a semi-truck, double semi-truck, with a bunch of alfalfa on it. And somebody got the idea that we should go help them unload the alfalfa. And we were going to make $5. I mean, a semi-truck full of alfalfa and 100-pound bales. I mean, we were wore out by the time we finished that deal. Remember that, guys, when we did that? You're smart enough. You knew better. Yeah.
That probably inspired you more to be an actor and stay away from the cowboy stuff right there. Hey, we'll get you. We're going to take one quick break. When we'll come back, we'll be commercial or interruption-free, basically, for the last hour. We'll get in there. We'll hear these stories. And
the last hour?
Yeah, for the last hour. And then you guys can kind of relive everything that happened. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Justin Booth Studios, our second hour of our celebration of the 50th anniversary of John Wayne's classic Western, The Cowboys. We'll have some questions from our studio audience and get a little more into the pranks, the stories, the behind the scenes, some of the stuff that hit the cutting room floor that you didn't quite make the movie. But what are some of the other best pranks that happened on set?
Well, I remember it wasn't really a prank, but we had moved from Santa Fe, New Mexico, to Pagosa Springs, Colorado. And Pagosa Springs is pretty high altitude. I think New Mexico, Santa Fe is like 4,800, and Pagosa is like 8,000. And we were pretty good at eating lunch. And every time they'd call lunch, we'd tear ass to the wagon to get our food. And we'd go running across this field, and we got to the wagon, and we couldn't catch our breath. It was just like, why can't I breathe? It's like we didn't know about altitude, really. So that was one event that I remember. Do you remember something?
I remember something. It just came back to me. I was playing in a band at the time, and my little brother Billy and our friend Ronnie, who was kind of our roadie, he came out with my brother, and they brought me my car. And you know, they came on the set, and Ronnie walks up to John Wayne and goes, "Hi, I'm Ronnie. Good to meet." This is at the ranch location, right out in front of the stables. He goes, "Will you wait here just 1 second? I'd like to take your picture. Will you just wait here 1 second?" And John Wayne says, "Sure." So he's standing there, and Ronnie goes and finds me, and I'm not anywhere near. He has to run all the heck over there to actually find me, and he goes, "Come on, you gotta." And I'm busy. "No, you gotta come. The Duke's waiting to get his picture took with you." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "No, he's waiting for you to come and get his picture took with you. So you got to get over here." So, you know, John Wayne stood there for 3 or 4 minutes waiting for me to show up and get my picture taken with him in front of you know, I could barely talk to John Wayne. And my friend Ronnie shows up and like tells him what to do to like set up this photo shot. And my brother prints that picture up and distributes it to people constantly in the world. It's like money, the picture of me and John Wayne. So if you're watching this, Ronnie, thanks for doing that.
In the movie, you know, most all the stunt kids, like I said, came from that little junior rodeo association. And so here's what Holiday Inn looked like when the bus dropped us off after shooting all day. Spinning dummies, roping everywhere. There's kids all in the front parking lot. And we get $60 a week to eat on. We could probably eat on 10, so we had money to gamble with. and Cleo usually got all our money.
Yeah,
so that was it.
I was pretty naive to the ways of cowboys, the poker and the chewing tobacco and all that. But I, like Stephen, became very enamored of that whole world. I too started rodeoing and stuff for a while, but they pranked me pretty good because they knew I was this doe-eyed Hollywood kid and had never been anywhere. So they taught me how to play poker. And I lost, of course, but they were chewing tobacco. They were all like chewing this tobacco. And then I forget who it was. Well, here, try some. It was this red man. And he said, when you're done with it, just swallow it. Oh. Big mistake. And I remember when we were doing the going away scene, when we were all departing, and I was just so on my horse, I was just, like this. I nearly lost it right there. It was pretty bad. They took advantage of me pretty good, but, it was all in good fun.
Oh, my gosh. I had one of those on location. I was actually on location with Patrick up in British Columbia, and I don't know what they were doing. They'd rented trucks, and they had like these electric drills that would go in reverse, and they were spinning the clocks back on the rented trucks that the production company used. And so I'm with these two guys, and they got snuff. I don't think it was chewing tobacco, so I put it in. And I'm in the middle, so I feel bad about asking the guy to roll down the window so I can spit every once in a while, so I just swallowed it. I was green for days.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's nasty.
Nick?
I don't have a prank or anything, but just a memory of, you mentioned Clay O'Brien, because Clay was amazing.
Yeah.
He was the littlest guy there, and we were in charge, Clay and I were in charge of the 60, 70 wild horses. They were, we had the cattle, and then we had the wild horses. And Clay and I, we would try to keep those horses in check and together. And I remember one time, one of the lead horses got away, and if that lead horse goes away, you just bullet out on a gallop trying to chase it down. So that was fun. And one time was very funny. Clay would like to sit on his horse with his feet up. Like his two back legs were up on the ass of the horse, right? And so I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do, right? So here I am, I put my feet like that. Well, my spurs catch the flank of the horse. And my horse just took off. And at that time, my reins were already tied to the horn, and I was just like holding on for dear life and got bucked off the horse. And I'll never forget that.
Of course, Clay O'Brien Cooper went on to win 7 world championships in team roping. So there's some things that you should do that he did.
Yeah.
He's a good role model in some ways, but that one probably not so much.
Well, I think I shouldn't have copied him doing that. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember one day, it was very frightening for all of us. Clay was just stroking a horse's head, being affectionate to a horse like we all would. And the horse put his head down like this, and part of the reins caught a tassel on his shirt or his chaps, which spooked the horse. He threw his head up like that, and Clay went flying, over tea kettle. You know, I mean, just, we were all just, ah. But he just got right up and dusted off. I said, I'm good. Some scary moments. I mean, there were some times when things could have really gone south, you know. Oh.
Yeah, when that happened to Clay, it was my horse that got his chin strap hooked underneath one of the buckles on Clay's chaps. And if it hadn't have been for one of the grips coming out, grabbing that horse and biting his ear, we probably would have really been in a mess. Because it was just that close to really being a wreck.
He was a tough little kid.
You know that story, Steve, that you told about the chewing tobacco?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had that experience also. It was right before the bunkhouse scene.
Okay.
And I think the Wranglers thought it was pretty funny to not tell me that you're supposed to spit it out. So yeah, that whole bunkhouse scene, I was green as could be. It was really bad. And another thing about the Wranglers, I had figured out how to sharpen a knife really well. I had read about it somewhere or something, and I had the Washita stone and how you're supposed to take a slice off it on each side. And, you know, I like boasted about it to the Wranglers, and all of a sudden I had a whole lot of knives I had to sharpen.
I think we have some pictures we're going to put up too, and you guys can kind of chime in and tell us what memories you have of those as we kind of look back at some of the different things going on. Obviously, the schoolhouse here. Yep.
That's right after the chewing tobacco.
Yeah, that's what it looks like there.
So inside the schoolroom, it was just really, there was a moment. It's the second time John Wayne comes into the schoolroom and he says, I'm cornered, I'm going to take you on. And that was for me a moment when I felt like the film became real. We were going to go do something, and it was really powerful, really amazing. I really dug it.
I was just playing with frogs.
Yeah, you were.
Yes. Bob mentioned how magical just that scene in the school when he puts the X on the...
Oh yeah, because he comes in the school and he's going to hire us as his hands, and he takes his sleeve and he wipes off the chalkboard, and he draws a line across it in a diagonal thing. He says, "This is a double O, and this is Belle Fourche, and in between is 400 miles of hell," or whatever he says, and he does an X. And the X is exactly perfectly positioned over that diagonal line. I know. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then the continuity people had to actually recreate that calligraphy on the blackboard 2 or 3 different times
And
afterwards.
Messed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm not sure about this, but I always thought that maybe one of the reasons, besides the problems with my acting, was that Buzz Henry didn't care for me on some level there was some chemistry between us that didn't work so good. So when it came time for the scene where I got to ride my horse into the Rio Grande to grab, the rope slim, and everybody's watching this, right? The world has stopped for this scene, right? It's all set up, and there's all this stuff going on, and and I go action, and I run my horse Goody, that was real good to me. He just sprinted to the edge of the river and just went, whoa. No way I'm going in there, right? And I can hear, Mark yells cut, and it's a big deal, and I watch Buzz go over and and the next thing it's like, okay, where's the double? Let's get the double on the horse. I'm going, no, give me one more chance, right? And I went back with Goody. One of the things I feel worst about that I've ever done, actually. I went back behind that stand of trees, and I scared the bejesus out of my horse. I basically went ape in the saddle. I started impersonating some wild beast. And I was talking bad things into its ear, and I was growling, I was hitting it on the top of the head and freaking the poor horse out. And he called action, and the horse went in the river and did the bit, right? And I was so grateful that I didn't get replaced. And you know, that to me was one of the most important moments in the movie. And I got to do it because I threw my horse under the bus. And to just make it clear, Goody spent 2 weeks getting even with me over that, just making everything possible difficult, you know, and try to get on him, pioneering over here and pioneering over here, you know. I paid the price, but, you know, I feel it was a fair trade-off to be able to do that scene on my own. That's me doing that scene, so.
Well, also, when A drags me out of the river, your velocity
It was a little quick.
And I damn near drowned.
I apologize.
Yeah, you went under a couple of times.
I did. Yes.
Was the water cold?
Yes.
Ice cold, right?
Oh, yes.
And
Fast
that
moving.
river was full. Like, that was a big river.
You saw the cows moving.
Yeah. Well, I don't think what people realize is that you're actually on horses. Each horse has a different personality. You're actually in a river. River is moving. I mean, there was cattle, there was horses, there was water. There's stuff that happens with those things in play that you can't control. And I don't know if they still make films the same way today, but there was edge of darkness when you're working with those animals and trying to pull off some of those scenes for the actors and also for the stunt guys.
Well, they're unpredictable. The
Yeah, very
situation's
unpredictable.
completely uncontrollable. And to your point about movies today, you know, there's so much technology and stuff. You know, I don't know if studios would sign off on letting a bunch of kids do that kind of stuff. I mean, there was potential for major disaster many times.
I was on a lot of sets with my father, but there were a number of times where they lost control of a horse or a mule during, or you know, when you see an animal that gets so frightened that it loses its mind and it starts going crazy, they need some space and they need some time to recover. And if you're in that little zone or that time period, you really could get hurt.
I'll tell you a quick story about, and I wasn't there, didn't witness it, but it was scattered around. Walter Scott, who's a stunt coordinator in Hollywood, who was in the Cowboys, he told me about it. And in the beginning of the movie, when his original hands are moving all the horses so fast, the music starts playing, you know, and they're moving those cattle across, or those horses across there so fast. When they originally shot that, those horses were going 1,000 miles an hour. And there was an old cowboy, which we all know, Casey Tibbs, was on that movie. So Casey Tibbs was in the front pushing these horses and keeping this thing going. And they, you know, they had this aerial shot of it, and they're going 9-0 out there. Casey's horse runs a foot and a gopher hole. And over and ends, and they said they shot Casey out there over the top, and smoke, or I mean dust everywhere, excuse me. And they said all of a sudden, here comes Casey, and nobody walked like Casey anyway. Comes walking out of the dust pile, you know, and he was okay. So everything's unpredictable with animals, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's not cut and dry, and that was just one of the scenes, and that's why they hired us guys that knew how to ride, you know.
Trained professionals.
Come on, be nice now, be nice. I gave you a compliment. I gave you a compliment earlier. Don't forget that.
Could you just imagine owning that Holiday Inn and seeing this crew come in at, you know, 14 to 20 with a movie company? They'd just be going, oh, man.
Insure everything.
Yeah.
Sean?
I was just going to say the same thing we were talking about, riding and maybe not being in danger or being in danger. So the scene we were running with the horses, and I'm getting a picture of all the kids. So we're driving, we're running with the, you know, it's action, and we're going, and the truck, the camera truck, is on like 2x8s, like just running parallel. So the truck gets a speed, they spin and say take off, and we're take off. My horse is beating the truck. And finally, Red Burns, the guy who taught us how to ride, he goes, young man, have you forgotten everything? I said, no, I'm fine. And he goes, well, then control your horse. I passed the camera truck again. This time, everyone's getting kind of peed, and I went, uh-oh. And he came up to me and said, is there something wrong? I said, I am trying to control the horse, sir. This horse has its own head. I can't, I'm doing everything with my hand and nothing. And he goes, get off that horse. I said, yes, sir, get off the horse. And he jumps up on it, And he said, who put the bit in the horse's mouth? And he was angry because it made us look bad, let him look bad. And they tightened the cinch on the horse underneath his chin so tight that the horse went numb and he was bleeding. So it was pretty tough. But these moments, these things can get out of control. So it was.
I think we have a couple of audience questions now. We should be ready for, I think.
I've got a family member in the audience. My niece, Anita Swift, is sitting up there, and she asked a great question.
You guys were on set with a lot of fabulous wranglers. You had Tap Canet. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys were on set with a bunch of fabulous wranglers, Tap Canet, the Eppers, the Walter Scott, amazing people. And I mean, that must have helped you guys a lot. And seriously, Clay O'Brien Cooper, have a huge crush on him. Amazing. You guys were amazing in your roles, but you had some amazing wranglers out there.
Mm-hmm. We couldn't have done Ed Burns and the whole Wrangler crew, yeah. He had a way of, yeah. He was amazing. He was so soft-spoken, but he, kind of like Will Anderson, he was quiet, but it came out loud. I had a problem with the trotting thing, bouncing up and down, and he just had a way of saying things, just a few words. So he would say to me, don't let the horse throw you, you throw the horse. And that was just ding, and it just worked. But I want to talk about the Holiday Inn a little bit. We lived at the Holiday Inn, the Denny's, and the 7-Eleven, right? Denny's. They were all right there. No, flash forward 1995, I go on location to Santa Fe to work on Last Stand with Sabre River, Tom Selleck film. And things start looking really familiar, right? And it's the same Holiday Inn, totally remodeled. The Denny's was still there. One of the and Strickland, the Stricklands were the teachers on that movie as well. And we had this husband and wife team teachers. They happened to be the teachers on this film. Oh, wow. And they were like, Steve, And one of the drivers on that show was a driver on the Cowboys. Wow. And one day when I was off, he said, Steve, come here. A little surprise for you, right? So I jump in his car and he takes me to the house, to the Will Anderson spread, and it's still there. Everything was still there, very dilapidated. It was kind of sad, actually. But it was like a ghost town, and all these memories came flooding back. It was quite something.
Like, how far would that drive be from where the hotel was to where that?
60 minutes.
Yeah, it was about. It was out there because they wanted, of course, desolate.
Because when you see, when you look out from that house, I mean, it's a lot of.
Oh, that guy owned it was like 30,000 acres or something. Yeah, it was huge.
Just about a quarter of a mile. There was a road. The highway was just right there. Off the ranch.
Oh.
It was crazy.
Okay. Next question.
Yes, my name's Danny Gerald. I'm from Santo, Texas, and my question is directed to Cimarron. It's not the most intelligent question, but there's a lot of us in the audience have this need to know. What did you do with the residuals of that hunk of gold that Slim gave you?
That's a great question. No, in fact, I was just telling Bobby last night, that's my favorite work of what I did in the movie. To me, that was the scene that, I feel the best about. And I think, and Bobby pointed out that, even though I never warmed up, the best thing I could say to him was, as I took the fool's gold as well, I got no use for it. But while I'm saying that, I put it in my pocket and I gave it a little extra touch just to feel that it was in place, So it was the first time you actually saw, the character, have like an inkling of softness come into his presentation. And I felt really, really good about that. I was so stoked about that scene, I can't tell you how wonderful it was to get to do all this stuff. I mean, we just got to do all this amazing stuff. And you look at it last night and you go, yeah, that was amazing. And then there was that, and then there was this. I remember just, I'm coming down this slope and cattle, and I'm, feeling good on Goody, and come up and he comes in besides me, and we naturally fit together. It looks good on camera, and then I get all attitude and go off, and now he comes on this side, and it's a perfect match from the distance of this one. Just the choreography of it was just so in the pocket, and we didn't at that point have to work that hard to make it feel like it was in the pocket. So thanks for bringing that up. I love that scene, and I love getting to be a part of this thing. It's just a miracle.
There's something to be said about really doing something as opposed to faking it or computerizing it. Right, yeah. You know, it may not always work, but when it does, it's really important.
It's really important.
Well, also, I think that the camera and, of course, the audience who's watching the movie, the camera records thought, it records reality, and the audience knows when it's real.
Yeah. Yep. Another question?
Yeah, I've been a fly on the wall the last couple of days, really enjoying these stories from everybody, but I want to make sure before we go away, you guys touch on two things. One of our favorite rodeo towns in the country, Belle Fourche, if you talk about that, and I understand they have some anniversaries going on up there. And then the other thing I learned last night that I thought was really intriguing was deleted scenes, that there are deleted scenes from the Cowboys, and if you guys would kind of talk about some of those scenes and what might be laying out there somewhere on the editor's floor.
And before we get started, can we thank that man, Patrick Gotch, for having us all out here and letting us do this.
Well, one other thing before I go, if you got this on. I was going to do this at the end of the show, but everybody's been having such a great time this week, and you guys really seem to be enjoying this. I'd like to invite you out to the NFR to be our guests, and we can do this all over again, either probably at Cowboy Christmas or at Resorts World or at the NFR. So you folks that are home that are watching this, stay tuned. We're going to put something together for the NFR, and if you're looking for something to do one of those 10 days in the afternoon, we're going to give you something to do. Maybe we'll have some screenings of the movie The Cowboys out there too.
Great. Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, Al, it's been a while since we've heard from you on that, and let's start with Belle Fourche. It's a great rodeo town. It's one of the PRCA's top rodeos every year. It's the hometown of yeah.
Mike, can I talk?
Yes, sir. Yeah, but the Garrett brothers, world champion bareback riders out there. It's a great cowboy town.
Absolutely. I started going there several years ago. I think Stephen Hudis went by himself the first year that anybody went back there. And Stacy Raisinin, my kudos to her, she and her husband own the Americ Inn in Belle Fourche where we always stay. They put us up there. And the Businessmen's Association brings us back there. So the second year we went, I think we had Mike, me, and Norman Howell. And then we ended up, I went for like 6 years in a row or so. And I think the last year we all got together there. There was 6 or 5 of us that made it back there to Belle Fourche. And the most amazing thing is I never knew how many times Belle Fourche was said in the movie until the first time I went there and screened the movie with all the townspeople that loved us at the museum, kind of like we did in the park here. So suddenly you start counting because you're in Belle Fourche, and Belle Fourche starts having some credibility, and you're like, wow, look how many times they said that. And the townsfolk went nuts hearing it. So we're doing a 50th anniversary in Belle Fourche, August 19th and 20th. We'll be, as many of us can, will be there. And it's just an amazing town. The Garrett brothers, I mean, world champion bronc riders, and it's just a wonderful place, and it is the real Old West. But when Patrick mentioned deleted scenes, I just was thinking about, there was a scene, probably some of the most craziest roping I've ever done. Norman Howell and I were supposed to have a roping scene. And we spent a day out in the middle of the desert. They put a catch pen for the cattle, they put a rope and chute, and they put a set of boxes out there for us to back into. And the horses on this movie were not top notch, let me tell you. These things were runaway dinks. But they said, go rope these steers, go head these steers and turn them for Norman. Well, there wasn't really any such thing as turning. You know, now there's the whole thing about the angle and where you're turning your steers and stuff. There was no angle. It was just straight on, 2 horns, dally, and go. And Norman, I was like, dude, I can't do any better. I can't handle these steers, so you just got to be there. And we probably roped 40 steers that day in one way or another. But I'm looking out at cactus and rocks and everything. I'm thinking, this is the craziest thing I've ever done. But it was a hell of a day.
And I'm going to say one more shout out for Belle Fourche. And Mike and I talked about this last night. It's a great town, and there are great people there, and they really adopted the movie, and it's wonderful. But it's also great country. And Mike and I were talking about Deadwood, which is not far from Belle Fourche, and Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, as an American, going to see that, which I never probably would have done if I hadn't gone to Belle Fourche, was just an epic moment to go see Mount Rushmore. I mean, that was incredible. So it's a beautiful part of the country. So 50th anniversary in April, I'll be there.
They got a great governor.
August.
In August, excuse me, yeah.
But
I got carried away.
There were a lot of deleted scenes, actually, and they were expensive scenes, as I recall. I know there was a scene with a bear, I believe, at one point, a grizzly bear. There was a scene that probably took a week or a week and a half to shoot with Native American, with the Indians, where they had to bargain to cross their land, so they would negotiate or whatever. But they had thousands of extras and all these costumes, and it just all on the editing room floor, because it would have been a 5-hour movie if they left everything in. So there was a lot that never made. I hope there's, on the re-release, I would assume they would have some deleted scenes available. But there was some great work that just ended up right on the floor, editing room floor.
The wagon with the beautiful ladies inside, did you ever, does anybody know who those gals were? Because they were very attractive.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell us about
Oh,
it.
yeah. I don't think I can tell you what color hair they had, but
Ethan just won the award for best question of the show.
Well, they were speaking about large monuments in the United States.
But it's interesting. Whose girlfriend? A's girlfriend?
Was she really?
Also Bruce Dern's
Because when I
wife.
watch, I go,
Bruce
those
Dern's
girls
wife.
were truly beautiful. Like, they were great looking.
yeah, and I just want to point out, I mean, I'm not sure A knows this, but his wife was one of them, or his girlfriend at the time. Yeah. She stared at me the whole time.
Easy.
Easy. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, well, we were having some trouble, her and me, and she
liked Mike.
She liked Mike. But she's an actor, and I thought she did a good job in the part. Pretending to like Mike.
That was real acting.
I mean, I know he was cute. I know he was cute. Even I thought he was cute.
All right, more questions from the audience.
My name's Layla Kimmick. I'm originally from Canyon City, Colorado, and now a Fort Worth resident. I've had such a pleasure of speaking with you all this weekend and learning so many cool things. I have some family at home watching right now, and they want to know the effect it had on your life making this movie afterwards, after you shot this movie, the impact it had, because it had to have a big one. For me, it did.
Well, I mean, for me, it gave me a career. I didn't have anything like planned. I was 17 at the time. All I cared about was driving my car a Mulholland Drive and playing my guitar. And this movie came along, and it started a career. I owe it to Mark Rydell. He gave me a career.
It was life-changing, certainly for myself, and I think I could speak for everybody here. It was just so pivotal in all of our lives, and it changed me. I became interested in cowboying, just like Stephen here. It allowed me to become a stuntman later in my career when the child acting thing was over, because people would recognize me and see me, and that kind of opened the door to other things. So it was a completely life-altering space and time for all of us. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, and I just want to throw in there real serious that to spend 3.5 months with John Wayne, to see him every morning, if that didn't get deep inside you, man, at 14 years old, you got better. When you were around him, you wanted to be better. You wanted to walk taller. You wanted to do better. You wanted to say the truth. I learned so much just by watching him. And being there on set with him for 3.5 months was a lifetime true for a 14-year-old kid.
Wow, thank you, Mike Pyatt. That was very nice. But you got to be on Roscoe Lee Browne, John Wayne, Bruce Dern, Colleen Dewhurst, Slim Pickens. That has to be at the age that you guys were. He was a few years older than you guys, but still, you seemed like a scary dude until I met you here, and you were the nicest, sweetest man. I just want to say, really feel different about you now. You're a very nice guy. So glad we got time together later in life. But that had to just elevate it's like a master class in life, but also in your craft. And I hear A talking about his craft constantly, and it may look natural on the screen, but there's turmoil and angst and thought and desire to grow. And when you spoke about your scene with Colleen Dewhurst and how it's another door that opens, it's another level that you get to the next level. So.
And Bruce Dern in particular, I remember always, whenever I possibly could, to be paying complete attention to everything he did. It felt like going to school. It's like, oh, we get to actually watch this guy, for our lesson today. And he just. I wanted to say, I've spent a lot of time chasing him around the internet, just to hear him talk, and he does an episode of the Dick Cavett Show back in the day that's available on YouTube, where he talks about his process, and he mentions your dad too. He kind of gets a little bit into some of the stuff they went through to kind of try to find some stuff. And I mean,
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, it's amazing. Bruce Dern is a treasure. He's an American treasure, and to be able to hear him talk right now is seriously.
Al? I was just going to say that one of the things for me about this movie is you'll never see another movie that's made like this one. You'll never see another movie in the world with the reality that this movie had. When you see these guys sitting here, cowboys, actors, whatever you want to call us, whoever we are, these guys, every one of us were riding our own horses. These scenes that you saw were real. Riding among those cattle, coming down those hills, up those hills. That was us, the people you see here.
Through those trees.
And through those trees. That was for real. Yeah. And the reality of it was we were a bunch of young men growing up at a time with a father figure leading us and impacting our lives. And I just have to say that I love my dad, and my dad was my dad, and he was John Wayne-esque. But if I had another father figure to pick, John Wayne was my father figure, my icon.
Nick, you have something?
Well, again, how special the movie was, and just that we were a family. The question before was we had great wranglers. Well, we had great wranglers. We had great grips. We had great makeup people. I mean, look at the makeup they did on John Wayne and on Bruce Dern after that fight scene. Those guys looked like they were just mangled. It was just a big family. And we had, the 11 kids had 11 stunt doubles. And they were stunt doubles and stand-ins. And honestly, they did more stand-ins than stunt doubles because we got so good at riding. And we were such a family that I get touched saying this because yesterday someone comes up to me and it was RD, who was my stunt double. And he drove 18 hours. He drove 18 hours from Arizona. So that tells you the love. That tells you the love he had for the movie, and he was there to help me. and there to support me as
Wave our. Oh,
yeah,
we
that's
we missed
you know,
him. We missed him.
there's a lot of love.
There he is. There he is.
The gentleman sitting next to him is my stunt double named Clay Hunt. Clay,
Clay,
man.
say hello. They both came a long way.
Yeah, they came a long way.
Good to see you.
So those two guys were the ones that taught me how to rodeo, and we spent 2 or 3 years going to Little Britches rodeos in Pahrump, Nevada, and Elko, Nevada, and all over California. These two guys were really pivotal in helping me develop those skills, big time.
Hey, so Al, you were talking about the reality on this show? Reality? Yeah, the reality. All of the night scenes that you see in this movie were shot on a soundstage.
Right.
So, for example, the fight scene between Bruce and Duke was shot on a soundstage. And when the bad guys get on horses and go riding out at a gallop, they were doing that on a soundstage. So as soon as they left the shot, they had to pull on the brakes big time.
Wow. Along with that, I was just going to mention a quick thing about your dad, is that, so the scene, no one really knows all this, but there's something that goes on, especially in these kind of films. These days, I don't know if they do this kind of stuff, but it's called looping, where you have to go back if there's a plane flying overhead or a sound or something they can't control in nature. So about 6-7 months after the film, they had a black and white print, and I get a call. I have to go over to the sound stage and do some looping. I said, oh, okay, cool. So I go over there, and there's the Duke, and I hadn't seen him in 6 or 7 months. I said, Mr. Wayne, good to see you. He goes, Sean, good to see you too. And I went, wow. So he's a presence. He was an amazing guy, but the truth of the matter was he was also an amazing actor. I say that not because of his background, his history. So we have to loop the whole scene that everyone loves so much, the swearing scene. That scene is completely redone. You see it lip synced. So it goes deet, deet, deet. You're wearing a headset and you have to say your lines, and you have to find the place that you were or start from where you are at that moment. So it wasn't happening for me anyway. And so the Duke, we're in 2 little separate sets and glass windows. We can't see each other. We're looking at a screen, black and white screen, and looping the lines. Finally, we take a break, and Duke walks up to me and goes, hey, Sean, I got an idea. Why don't we step into that sound stage to get the little box together? He says, we don't move our bodies. We'll just face each other. You wear your headset, I'll wear mine, and we just look at each other. And that's how we did that scene. Here's to you, Duke.
Wow.
I've worked with a lot of actors, famous, infamous, you name it, but there was none like him for graciousness, respect to the crew and the cast. But one thing that really sticks out in my mind is that I had a working career going on, and apparently an episode of Adam 12, I think it was, had aired locally, and the next day he said, that was really good work, kid, keep it up like that. I mean, that was nice, he didn't have to acknowledge that at all.
That was my question. Like for those of you who'd worked on other major motion pictures or with other big stars, was there what did you notice different between a John Wayne set compared to a?
Just that air of graciousness. I mean, he knew who he was, but he also appreciated who he was and how lucky he was, and he had such respect for all of us and the crew. I mean, he ate with the crew. He wasn't, off in his trailer somewhere. And he was just real. He was genuine. He was the real deal. None like him ever again.
I have another question from the studio audience.
Hello, my name's Brad Gandy. I'm a local cowboy actor, probably because of y'all. Thank you very much. Also, I love the soundtrack. I use the soundtrack in my ears every time I go snow skiing every year. It's great motivational on the ski slope. And third, when did you ever know that John Wayne was going to be killed in the script? Or did they let y'all know after the fact or the day of?
Well, most people don't know. The reason why he didn't read the script is he doesn't know how to read, actually. No. No, I had read the whole script through, so yeah, I mean, most of us.
Get it, boys!
I owed you that one, dude. But
what'd you do, Steve? Huh? What did you do, Steve?
But no, we knew the story. In fact, Nick and I, we could go verbatim the whole script, everybody's part, all the way through. So yeah, we knew, and it was still difficult to what. No, yeah.
Oh, there you go, Mom.
Thank you.
Yeah, got him back.
Okay, one more.
Hi, Paul Bush, just outside Fort Smith, Arkansas, home of Rooster Cogburn. My question is probably more for Cimarron, but what happened next? I see after the movie. We're talking about sequels. I see Cimarron possibly going home and getting a family, but what happened next after the end of the movie?
Oh, that's such a good question. You know, I'd had a little bit of, I'd been doing a few TV things, you know, and I had a little bit part in an Elvis Presley movie with Mary Tyler Moore, you know, harassing. She was a nun, and I was harassing her on the street. But you know, I was, you know, you go along and you're, you know, scrambling, and I mean, I couldn't believe I was getting to do anything. But then you get to do this. My dad's favorite actor. My dad and me were not getting along real great when this happened, and you know, the fact that I actually got to be in a John Wayne movie, like, sort of gave me, you know, like a little validation in terms of some of the things that he was probably wondering about in terms of why would I want to be throwing away my plans to do whatever to, like, try to be an actor. What is that? Who does that, right? And I just, you know, you spend 16 weeks making this movie with all these amazing people, and you feel your whole spirit turn into something else. You feel like you're a different person when you come out of it. And I called my agent. I said, you know, I don't want to be on TV anymore. You know, I want to make movies now, because this is different. It's a different thing altogether, and I want to be that. I don't want to do this stuff anymore. And he goes, okay. So 11 months later, I called him up and said, you know, actually, yeah, you know, if something were to happen, if someone, you know, I might have misunderstood the situation, because I just, you know, I could not get arrested. I tried out for the part that Frederick Forrest played with Richard Widmark, When the Legends Die, and I tested for that, and I just couldn't believe that, you know, they didn't want to cast me in that part until I went and saw the movie and saw what Frederick Forrest did with that role, and I thought, oh, I'm still fooling myself in terms of what I'm capable of doing, and I need to get real to be able to survive. So that was, you know, it was a reality check. But despite all the problems and being the third choice and all this stuff, you know, it still exists. It still exists, and it still works, you know. And it's just one of the greatest experiences of all time. But thank you for the question, man.
Patrick?
We got about 10 minutes left. Again, I've been a fly on the wall last couple of days. Okay, guys, it's time to take off the gloves. All right, no holds barred. Let's hear some of these great stories behind the scenes about this movie, especially between the 9 of you. Oh, and we should mention,
well,
Clay O'Brien Cooper would be here this weekend, but his daughter's getting married. I'm getting a lot of emails asking where Clay O'Brien Cooper is.
What about Norman? And Norman, yeah. What about
Where's Norman? Yeah, Norman, he's working.
That's what we should be doing.
Okay, well, my friend Ronnie, who, like, told John Wayne to stand by the corral for 5 minutes while he went looking for me. And then later at the rap party, Ronnie was playing the guitar, and John Wayne said, "You're not all that on that banjo, kid." And Ronnie says, "Yeah, well, I hear you don't get on a horse as good as you used to either, you know, right?" And it turns out that they spent a lot of time together that night, because Ronnie and the Duke, you know, they were like thick as thieves. Anyway, Ronnie, when he came out to visit me and bring my car, he also brought out some marijuana brownies, and one day, you know, I had the day off, and he says, "Well, you know, let's you know, get a buzz on the day." So I ate some of his brownies, and then I get either a call or I had misunderstood or something, and it turns out that I had to work that day. And of course, once you've put that into your body, you know, it's going to do what it's going to do. And, you know, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I remember that it was the scene we had to shoot was when we throw down on Nightlinger. We, like, tackle them, and we, you know,
You were high for that?
I was high, and you can see it in my acting. I mean, I'm I'm growling and throwing him down. I'm just overacting. I mean, it was embarrassing. But the worst thing was, I thought, oh, I got a close-up coming up, because you had to say, you know, we're going to finish the job, and he says you're going to get yourselves killed. But you walked up and you had that thing, and I was in the shot with you, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do, you know? And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll put my gloves in my mouth, because that was my idea of a solution. I figured I'll have my gloves in my mouth, so you won't be able to really see it. My hair's all messed up, and you won't really be able to see me, and you won't be able to make a judgment on what the state of mind I was in, how high I was. But then, you know, eventually I had to take the gloves out of my mouth. Anyway, that actually happened, and I feel bad about it, but there was nothing I could do by the time I realized that it was a terrible mistake.
Okay,
that was pretty good.
That's a good one. When you're on a location, they have a semi-truck that's got all these little rooms in it. It's called a honey wagon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we go to change our clothes and stuff. And apparently the guy that was driving the honey wagon liked motorcycles, because he had these little stickers stuck on the outside of the trailer with various motorcycles on it. And I saw this one sticker that said CZ, which is the Czechoslovakian dirt bike. And I really wanted that sticker. So I'm out there, I'm starting to peel the sticker off the trailer, and the guy walks up and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I didn't know he could see me. I didn't realize that Teamsters do not leave their trucks unless it's to get a cup of coffee or to have lunch. So the guy's sitting in his truck, and he's looking out his rearview mirror, and he sees this kid out there peeling the sticker off the trailer. Boy, was I embarrassed.
So we were out in Santa Fe, and Bobby's brother, can I tell this story?
Of course.
Bobby's brother David is going to come see him, I guess, and he's got Barbara Hershey with him, and we're doing the scene where we're running the horses, right? And all of a sudden, I stop, and I look behind me, we're getting ready for the camera, and there's this huge dust thing coming across that flat plane. And all of a sudden, I look, and it said, "Is that a car?" It's a Maserati coming about 100 miles an hour across the dirt plane.
It's a Ferrari. It wasn't a Maserati.
It wasn't? I thought it was. So then I tell this to Buzz Henry, the second unit guy, and he goes, "Oh, you like fast cars?" I said, "Well, I've never been in one, sir." He goes, "Well, I'll take you for a ride." And that afternoon or the next day, I think a lot of us went for a ride in his 65, that was a 350 GTB Ferrari. And
Actually,
it was
a 275 GTB4.
Who's counting?
Yeah, it was fast. That's all I remember.
And it was red.
You know, I remember a similar thing happened. One of the station wagons, because back then they didn't have vans to haul the cast around. They had station wagons. And the station wagon's coming across the plain with the big, dust cloud behind it. And it's John Ford. And Mark Rydell jumps down off of the camera car, and he goes trotting over to the car because he wants to say hi to John Ford. And John Ford came out to visit John Wayne. And John Ford rolls the passenger window down about that far. And before Mark can say anything, John Ford says, "I hope you're a better director than you were an actor."
It was a tough crowd. Because Mark Rydell was a great actor.
Really good.
Who's next on the confessional here?
Can we go back to the gals in that wagon?
I remember
To this
when
day,
we
I'm
were in
intrigued.
Pagosa Springs, the mayor of Pagosa Springs owned the two hotels we stayed at. They were old log cabin type hotels, the best I recall. And there was this young man that came through town. It was legal to have fireworks and bottle rockets and all the really cool stuff that's outlawed nowadays. So, being a bunch of young guys, we were pretty cool. We had our Coke bottles and our bottle rockets, and we had bottle rocket fights all over the place at the hotel. Well, the mayor kind of got concerned about his hotels burning down because they were old wood log cabin type structures. We didn't think anything about that. So he literally enacted legislation for the town while we were there to outlaw the sale of fireworks in the city limits of Pagosa Springs. So the guy that would sell us the fireworks would come by in his gray Chevy pickup truck, pick us up, take us about a mile down the road, which was outside of town, and sell us fireworks. We never stopped. We kept fighting and having a great time. The mayor wasn't happy, but it is what it is.
It's actually called the Al Barker Law, isn't it?
I think so.
Sam, touch on what they talked about. How did the movie change your life and have an effect on your life? You went on to the military. I know I talked to Cleo, and he went on to win 7 world championships. And I know my wife had a crush on him when she was a kid. Clay probably could have had a pretty solid Hollywood career if that's what he wanted to do, but he didn't want much to do with it. But what was your mindset?
More than changing a lifestyle, it made me realize what I wanted to do out of life. I had always dreamed about flying. Well, I ended up getting married, and what comes along with nice, happy marriages is babies. She was going to have a C-section. So me thinking, I'll just join the military. I went in, became crew chief. About 2 years later, I went on ahead and applied to go to flight school and spent 25 years flying all over the world, having a ball at it. So anything that you do that you enjoy is not work. It's fun. And if they pay you, well, that's even better. So it was life-changing to me in the fact that it finally made me realize as a young man where I wanted to go with my life.
That's great.
And I'm proud of you guys being child actors. You didn't wind up on like True Hollywood Story or anything crazy.
Oh, yeah, like the whole on Skid Row,
Yeah.
used to be, could have been.
It's that cowboy side. Gives you that
Well,
solid background.
We spent our formative years under the tutelage of John Wayne.
Exactly right.
He taught us right.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Good. And I'd like to say something else. These guys have lives and they're busy, and they don't need to come here and do this. They came here, we asked, and they all showed up. And so I'd like to just say, on behalf of the Cowboy Channel, my family, my father, thank you guys for taking the time out to come here and talk about this and share with us, because we're all interested. I was on the other side. I wasn't in the troop with you. I was on the location though, and I have my own fond memories of it. But what you got to experience was really special, and we appreciate you coming out and taking all our questions and talking to us about it. Thank you. Yeah.
Great stories. Great stories. So many people, Patrick Gotch, Ethan Wayne, so many people behind the scenes to put all this together. And of course you guys, the star attraction down that line. And there's some of the people that we need to thank down that line. But
Well, we got to mention Jade.
Yep.
And we got to mention Cheyenne.
Yep, Jade and
We got to
Cheyenne.
mention Stephanie.
Amy.
Yep.
Amy.
Got to mention them because they did it. And, the Stockyards.
Oh, yeah, no, they've been great.
Craig
The whole town
Cavalier,
has been
Hotel
great.
Drover.
Yeah.
The Coliseum, everybody.
Yeah, it's
all
really-
all these guys at the Cowboy Channel.
Yes.
Yeah, the Stockyards truly is the cowboy capital of the world, and John Wayne, the American experience, is a huge part of it. Huge
Well,
part of it.
we're excited to be here. I'm glad you guys got to walk through and see it today earlier. I hope you enjoyed it. There's some Cowboys stuff in there, and we'll keep changing and expanding and refining it as time goes by. So if anybody hasn't seen it, please come down to the Stockyards, enjoy the Drover Hotel, come sit in the audience at the Cowboy Channel, and come on into the John Wayne and American Experience exhibit. We'd love to see you.
As Patrick touched on, Las Vegas. Try to do it again during the National Finals Rodeo. So,
Has everybody been to the National Finals Rodeo?
No.
No?
No.
It's amazing.
What do they do there?
It's amazing. It's you think it's a rodeo? It's 10 laser beam focused days on Western culture. It's amazing.
And what's crazy about it, 2 members of the cast obviously have competed at the National Finals Rodeo. But thank you guys again. It's I think the thought that keeps coming back, I can't believe it's been 50 years. But thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for being here. Thanks, Ethan, and thank you guys for watching, and look for more on coming your way from Las Vegas. Thank you guys.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the John Wayne Gritcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you like what you heard, give us 5 stars in the Apple Podcast app and follow us on social media at John Wayne Official.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.